Alright, so today I'm just going to go over what I did today. I coded for hours on end. Now, the formatting for this file looks a little weird. I just want to tell you the story. So, there's two things that you should get out of the story. One is that um, I'm about to explain why I am not going to do direct, direct, what do you call it? Manipulation? Or, um, yeah, fine. Direct manipulation between my Java program and the Google Sheets. And two, um, is going to be what I did today. So, um, after I finished the web scraping stuff for my program, I wanted to make my program directly interact. That's the word I was looking for. Interact um, with Google Sheets. So that means it would automatically connect a client to a Google spreadsheet, and then it would write out the data automatically. Right. So I was researching for hours, and I really couldn't find much except for one API that Google offered themselves. But it was for a Gradle project. So I followed all the steps, but I had forgotten that my project was using Maven, right? Not Gradle. So then my dependencies stopped working. So when my dependencies stopped working, I'm like, all right, no, I'm just gonna have to revert back. All right, so then I tried or not revert back. I tried deleting like all of the code I made. And then I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna delete the project and um, pull revert the history from GitHub, right? But the reverting the history didn't work, so I deleted the project and I was just gonna pull it from GitHub. But then I realized that I forgot to push my previous project to GitHub, right? So then I had an older version of the project. So all like the hours of work I had done wasn't on GitHub. But then for some reason, the previous version that I deleted, it wasn't there in the recycling bin. It just disappeared. And I was freaking out because I had worked for like 4 or 5 hours, and that was all of that work down the drain. So I was sticking through the trash folder, couldn't find anything at all, except for one jar file it was called Tranche manager.jar. And so out of desperation, what I did was I took it out of the trash and I tried decompiling it. I couldn't. So what I did was I went to a Google Drive because I thought, oh, maybe they have a decompiler. So I put it in, and then it said, okay, you can't decompile it here, but Google Drive suggests that you use either Cloud Convert or like File Unzipper or whatever it was called. So I used File Unzipper and I unzipped it, and then I spent like 20 minutes digging through like the hundreds and hundreds of files within the decompiled version of the jar until I found one folder that contained my actual code. So then I opened up the folder, I opened up my code, and it wouldn't let me see it, so I had to download the file. So I downloaded the file. I'm like, finally I have the file. Couldn't open the file because it was a .class file and not a .java file. So then I had to put that, and I couldn't load it onto IntelliJ. I tried dragging it. It said it was an unsupported file extension, so I had to decompile that, right? To put the .class file into a converter that turned it into a Java file, right? So then I finally opened that, and then I pasted the code. But my project, because I'd done all that Gradle crap on it, it had messed up all the settings. So all of the dependencies that I had loaded on from Maven, like those weren't working, and the main code that I needed depended on those dependencies. So then I had to completely delete the project and reload the code onto a brand new fresh project, and that is this project. That's why it's not hooked up to GitHub or anything. I had to reload all of that code, right? But then, because I had essentially that code that I had wasn't the original code, because it was really the code that was a result of me exporting an older version of my project into a jar file, and then me decompiling the jar file and then converting that the class from the decompiled jar file into a Java file. So it had already like transformed into like machine code. That's why the spacing on all of this is so weird, right? I would never do this weird spacing right here. So I had to change some lines because it had so there weren't any quotation marks in any of these. It was like a weird string of characters, right? And then it just had like some commas to separate the what do you call it? The variables that have been inserted and appended to the string. So I had to change all of that, and then finally, after all that happened, I finally got my code back, right? And the final result is pretty great. So let me just, I was testing out a CSV loader right here. So that is why I'm not going to be scraping the, not scraping, that is why I'm not going to have my program directly interact with spreadsheets, because I just could not find an API that worked with the code I had, right? So I'm not going to do that. But I came up with an alternative solution, which is essentially you can um, use part of the program to just basically index, or I'm calling it profile, to profile a stock. And you can either choose to have it automatically profile it, or you can manually. Manually means you just put in all of the data and statistics manually into the program, and it'll just record it all into like a object called stock. Or you can have it automatically profile it, which means it'll scrape Yahoo Finance for actual, sorry, this was just me testing out, but it'll scrape Yahoo Finance automatically for all of the data, and then it'll record that data into the stocks profile in the program. And then after, no matter, doesn't matter which way, manually or automatically you did it, but then it's going to save it, and it's going to load it onto a CSV file, which is comma to comma space for it. I forgot what it stands for. But essentially it's just a version of a spreadsheet but in a file format. So then that file format, you can do file on Google Spreadsheets, file, and then you can do imports. And so you can basically upload massive amounts of automatically profiled um, stocks into your spreadsheet. And that is going to be very useful for me specifically, because I need that. But anyways, here's the code. Basically, when you create a stock object, you just pass in the ticker symbol. It'll set the ticker symbol variable, and then it'll set the URL to this base URL for Yahoo plus the ticker symbol, and that will be the web page's ticker symbol. So I'll show you right now. If I type in this exact address, put it into here, right? And then I do just slash, let's say Bank of America is BAC, that's their ticker symbol. Type that in, and it'll bring me to the summary page of their stock profile. Now, I can also go to historical data, and what I do is I scrape the internet I scrape this off of this summary page, but then I go to the historical data, and I can actually set the time by altering this URL. For some reason it's not showing it, but the rest of this URL shows like the specific time period in Unix time, so I have to like convert, do a lot of crazy conversions. But the end result is a client that whenever you create a stock object, you have the ability to automatically profile by scraping Yahoo Finance of all of its information on a specific specified stock and then storing it within the program, right? And I haven't worked on scraping EPS. I think I will remove that, right? Because, wait a minute. Does Yahoo, wait, I can't remember if Yahoo Finance has EPS values right here. If they do, then I will add that. Okay, so it has diluted, let's see, EPS. Okay. No, it just has the diluted EPS here. Probably in financials, right? Let's see, EPS. So what I'm looking for right now is not the basic EPS or the diluted EPS. I am looking for the equivalent of Google Finance. So if I type in BAC EPS, right, it'll give me their quarterly financials and earnings calls from the past 5 quarters, show me the expected, reported, and surprise for the last 4 quarters, which is really useful for recording the trailing PE ratio. And you can also just take this for the last one, which is Q4 2021 in this case, in Bank of America's case, and just use that for the regular PE ratio. But I don't see it for the past 4 quarters. Let's see, summary. EPS, yeah, no, this is all TTM. TTM is like trailing or something. It's like, what does TTM stand for? Whoops, that's CTPM. TTM is trailing 12 months, yes. Trailing 12 months, so that's over the past year, which is all 4 quarters, but it automatically averages it for you, which I don't actually want. I think. I can actually test this. Oh, wait, no. So it just adds up all of the EPS, and I don't really want that, to be honest. What I do want is just all 4 earnings so that I can average it out and get the average EPS of the past TTM. And then I can use that average EPS of the past TTM to calculate the PE ratio with the current price, right? I don't see that though. So I might just have to use this. And I don't trust these PE ratios because they don't update it often enough, in my opinion. And right now the market is extremely volatile, so frequent updates is important, which they don't do that much. So let me check if this EPS is right. My MU EPS. So past 4 quarters, that is 1.88 plus 2.42. Wow, that's a lot. Oh, shoot. That's Spanish. Son of a... Sorry. Alright. See, 1.88 plus 2.42 plus 2.16 plus 2.14. That's 8.6. Is that correcto? Yeah. See, they don't even update their EPS TTM very often. So, I think I'm just gonna have the user enter that manually. Sorry if I'm talking weirdly. I got my braces in today. Sorry, I got my braces changed a little, and they added something in the back molar, so it's a little hard for me to talk. I have a massive headache too, but whatever. Okay, so you can see right here, this is the automatic stock thing. So I'm just going to model this off of how my stock thing is managed. Right, so the basic one is going to be okay. Then I forget there's also ETFs. Does Yahoo talk about the returns? Historical data. No, just the price. Yeah. So think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stick to 1 and 5-year growth. I should also record the dividend yield though. Yeah, I definitely should. And expense ratio. Yield is 1.3%, is that correct? Or does that match mine? Yeah. And I believe that's, was that 30-day yield? I believe, yeah. Okay. So, how I do this is I just do inspect element right here. Now I find it. And I can just copy the XPath. Right? Copy the XPath. And wait a minute. Yeah, copy the XPath. And right here, make a private double uh, dividend yield. I'll just do div yield 30 days. Or wait a minute. How do they record their dividend yield? Okay, so it's got a 1.3% dividend yield. Right? That's every 30 days. But what about something that goes quarterly? Do they specify that? RC. Ready capital. Dividend yield. Oh, I see. Okay, you know what? I might have to make the user put that in manually. Same thing with the expense ratio. You know what? I think it's good for now. So, I'm a little bit I need to finish this though. So, the manual profiler. Yeah. Okay, so manual profiling. And then, okay, so of year return, I definitely need the PE ratio though. That's gonna be a major one. So what I will do is that's price to earnings, and I also need, do they have the book? Doesn't matter. So I'm gonna work on this in between videos, just because it's gonna be a much longer thing, and I don't want to do that over video because that slows me down. And I'll update you later, but that's basically it. Just wanted to update. So see ya.